work at two museums. I work at the Peterson Automotive Museum as the school programs coordinator full-time, and here I'm involved in basically bringing in Title I schools for field trips and actually leading tours, training others in leading tours. Also, I'm part of the education department, so I'm also involved in other events. For instance, coordinating curator talks. We also have our own education department lecture series that I've been fortunate to be part of and actually present a talk in as well. And just basically being involved in helping with program development in the education department. But in addition to this job, I also work at the William S. Hart Museum as a program assistant, and there I've been involved in program development, and I've actually I launched a Spanish language tour program, trying to expand the reach of that particular museum. My first entry into the museum world was at the William S. Hart Museum, and actually specifically having been on the Perspectives team was what got me that particular job, because when I was first interviewed, I was asked about what I'd been doing, and at that point I was an active student at Cal State LA, and I was like, oh, I just was part of this group, or this one class where we got to publish our own journal, and the museum administrator there was really excited. She's like, well, what did you guys do? I'm like, oh, students submit their work and I get to look it over, but she was really intrigued by the idea of presenting community voices, and I was like, yes, this is something that maybe we can. And as the interview went on, I discussed how I'm like, well, I was able to kind of experiment doing that with students. I would like to do that maybe with the community voices, that program may be incorporating our visitors' interests into the programs that were being created at the William S. Hart. And so that helped me get that job. And from there, that particular job ended up helping me get this other job here at the Peterson. And here as well, I've been able to really look at our collection from a historical perspective. That's been resist the temptation to read every single line in your books, because that's something that I did and I've done and I continue to do. And then I find myself just it's a real time suck. Like, I know it's exciting, but you just don't have the time. So that's my number one suggestion, because I did it, and I'm trying to take my own advice. But the second one really would be to not be to try to be creative about what a history degree will get you. I think a lot of students go into it thinking, this is the path, this is the only thing I will be able to do. I know a lot of us goes into teaching, but for instance, expanding our definition of teaching. I feel like I'm in the education department, pardon me. I am teaching, but I'm not teaching in a classroom, I'm not teaching in a formal setting, and it's just as satisfying. It's actually very interesting. I'm reaching a very wide audience, and I've actually met other historians who, surprisingly, they're like, no, we're really interested in, doing community outreach and looking towards the future while still being grounded in the history. Actually, museums were something I wanted to do as a little girl. I actually have a very vivid memory of entering a museum one day I come from downtown Los Angeles, and I grew up in the 80s, so it was like no trees and a lot of smog before it got trendy. I do remember being transported the moment I entered a museum and what that felt like, particularly when I came from a place where most people feel they don't have any prospects, or they have so many disadvantages. So that feeling stayed with me as I grew up. Now, I wasn't quite sure that I was going to become a museum professional. This was exactly the path. It always was in the back of my mind, but like a lot of those of us who are in the humanities, I ventured into different careers. I did accounting for a while. I had a stint at a monastic center in Northern California. I did all sorts of stuff, things that you do. You have to work. But now that once I got my foot in the door back in the museum world, I realized I'm home. This is what I've always wanted to do, and I would like to continue to do this in the future. So I would definitely like to expand and grow this and really become a part of the museum world. Very excited. I'm really excited to bring it, and not to just keep the museum as I like the idea of putting it on the road as well. Maybe participating in programs that bring parts of our institution to either schools or fairs or whatnot, and bring that experience home to others.